They did this every year before the pandemic, but never quite to this degree. We live in a rural part of a very woodsy, green southern state, and there are very few regulations regarding what someone can or cannot do on their own property. So, every year, without fail, I can look forward to weeks of unending firework displays. Most years I just hunker down with my headphones and my dogs in their thunder shirts and just try to sleep through the noise. I've purchased white noise machines, soundproofing for the house, earplugs, you name it. But this year, probably because they couldn't get their hands on the fireworks last year, they've really gone overboard. None of my solutions have worked. I went over Monday when they started setting them off and politely asked if they'd maybe tone it down just a little bit. My neighbour, a dyed-in-the-wool southern redneck, met me on his porch. He was a lovely shade of strawberry pink, which I'm pretty sure was a combination of high blood pressure and a perennial sunburn, and a mustache that would rival most of the brooms I've ever seen. His ripped sleeve wife-beater was proudly emblazoned with an American flag. His baseball cap said John Deere across the front. He eyed me with suspicion when I pulled up. Not that I've ever done anything to the man, but I bet he has plenty of enemies. Honestly, even though I live almost a half-mile away through the woods, I've heard him fighting with his relatives. And I've got to say, with a family like that, I'd be suspicious of everyone too. "Hey, Dan." I hopped out the driver's seat and plastered a friendly smile on my face. "How are you today?" I hoped if I was as kind and pleasant as I could possibly be, he'd respond, reasonably. At least more reasonably. "What do you want?" he demanded before I got halfway up the lawn. I sighed and slowed to a stop, my hopes already beginning to dwindle. "Those fireworks you set off last night sure were pretty." I angled, holding out some vestige of hope. "Uh-huh," he responded, a mix between proud and derisive. His mustache hiked on one side. It was blonde, the same color as said broom bristles. "I was just wondering if you wouldn't mind wrapping them up a little bit earlier for the next couple of nights. I have to get up early for work, and my dog's..." "My property, my fireworks. I'll do what I want." He puffed his chest and started to get up off his lawn chair. "Oh, I'm not saying don't. I'm just asking if you could cut them off around 1 a.m., maybe?" I wasn't shocked when he grabbed for his shotgun. "Get the fuck off my property," he responded. I sighed, nodded, and went. That was how the vast majority of our talks went. He wasn't the friendliest neighbor. I went home and spent the next few nights listening to the loudest, most extravagant bombardment of fireworks I'd ever been subjected to. Each night it was worse, getting louder and louder as we crept closer to the holiday itself. Every morning I woke up increasingly exhausted, my dogs more and more terrified. Yesterday, I resolved to just go stay in a hotel until the 4th was over. I packed my bags and left them by the door so that I could just pick the dogs up and go when I got home from work. But work ran a little late that night, and by the time I got back, the sun was already starting to set, and right on cue, boom. This time it was so loud my whole car rattled, and my ears rang. I swear to God it sounded like it was right above my head. I flinched and nearly drove my car right into a tree. God damn it, Dan! Was he setting them off over my house, deliberately? I got out to look. I'm not sure if I'm glad I did, or wish I hadn't. Boom, boom, boom. A series of them went off, all at once. Peons and palm, chrysanthemums, brocade, spinners, crackles, willows, ones I couldn't even name, even though I'd grown pretty familiar with them over the 5 years I'd been Dan's neighbor. So many of them that they ceased to have color and became just one eye-blisteringly bright light. The sound was so loud it deafened me briefly. I covered my ears and ducked against the side of the car, crying out loud. When everything got dark, I instantly assumed that I'd been temporarily blinded. But no, I could just barely make out the shape of my car door beneath my hand, or my hand for that matter. I looked up and saw it. The hole. It was... I don't have words to describe how big it was. Like the Grand Canyon. I'd once seen an old strip mine in the desert, and that's as close as I can come to describing it. Like someone had torn a whole chunk out of the amber-orange sky all around it and replaced it with indigo and violet. It wasn't the night sky. I know that because there weren't any stars. Instead, there were pinpricks of inky darkness, small blots of black on the tapestry of blue-purple. I stared, my jaw hanging around my collarbone. Something looked out. I can't even say it looked, really. That was just the impression I got. I didn't see anything resembling eyes. It was just a void. Honestly, a uniquely shaped void. And I watched Dan fire off one more firework directly into it. I don't know if it was on a timer, or if it just had a particularly long fuse, or if Dan was so phenomenally stupid that he did it deliberately. But that last blue-white willow went right up directly into this thing and was swallowed whole immediately. Completely. The light vanished in the blink of an eye. It reached down, a shadow in the shape of a hand. I didn't see what it grabbed, but I can guess. I was too busy crawling under my car and weeping, terrified and trying to wrap my head around what I was seeing. A few scarlet rays broke over the horizon just then. The last hurrah of a setting sun, I guess. I only know because I caught a glimpse of it, cowering beneath my sedan. Suddenly, it got bright again. It was so quick, as if someone had flipped a switch. I stayed put for another 10 or 15 minutes just the same, until the fumes from the car started to get to me, and then I crawled cautiously out and confronted the sky. The same sky I'd always known, and yet, for me, forever changed. I called the police and then drove home shaking. I didn't know what to tell them, so I told them the truth. They called some paramedics out to evaluate me. In hindsight, probably because they thought I was in the middle of a mental breakdown, which I was. But they attributed it to a lack of sleep, gave me something to calm me down, and left without even taking a statement. I got my dogs and left as soon as they were gone. We spent the night at the hotel, and when we finally got back, my neighbour's brother was waiting by my mailbox. He wanted to know if I'd seen Dan lately. I looked him in the eye and said I'd heard some kind of commotion in that direction. Sounded like animals, I said. Maybe stirred up by all the fireworks. I don't think he believed me. About the fireworks, that is. I'm putting the house on the market and going to visit some friends in California tomorrow. Apparently fireworks are illegal out there. Which is great. Because I suspect Dan's family isn't going to lit up on those fireworks.
Hello listeners. If you enjoyed this story, please check out the author in the description. For more content, leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more sinister readings.